Alessandra, welcome to the Sipping Point.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I've been a long fan of your wines. Of course, the Brunellos, but also the Rossos as well. Before running this winery and becoming part of the family business, you were an Olympic athlete in sailing. Tell us a little bit about when you competed and how that prepared you to be the CEO of such an amazing Brunello estate in Tuscany.
Well, training so hard in a sport gives you a lot of discipline. You need a lot of will to do things, and it gives you really the resistance to hassle a lot. And even when the results don't come immediately, you never stop trying. And I think that's a very powerful thing to have, especially in this business. We depend a lot by the climate, and especially in these last 10, 15 years, the climate hasn't followed the normal patterns that we were used to be seeing 20, 30 years ago, where at the beginning of the season, you knew already if it was going to be a warm or a cold season, and you knew what was going to happen in the vineyard. Instead, today, you really need to adapt fast to what's going on, and you need to be prepared for everything and never stop trying. And I think being an athlete teaches you this a lot.
That's great. And what year Olympics did you train for?
So London 2012, and then I
Nice.
started training also for Rio, but in Rio halfway through I got a very good job opportunity. I finished my studies, so I decided to start working and stop sailing. Well, I'll never stop sailing, but yeah, stop sailing. Stop competing in sailing.
Yes. And where do you sail from where you're at in Tuscany?
So, well, actually, right by the seaside. We also own a winery by the seaside in Maremma. And that's a really interesting waterfront where you really learn how to sail because you have all the conditions from flat water, strong winds, light winds, you have everything. So it really gives you a complete form of sailing. In Italy, we're very lucky. We have some incredible spots to learn how to sail. We also have the lakes, which are wind machines all year long. So it's easy for us. We're surrounded by water. Italy is not an island, but it's very close to being an island. So
That's
sailing
awesome.
is a big sport. Yeah.
Great. Well, you mentioned your studies, and I know that you studied the aerospace engineering and actually worked for an aircraft manufacturer in the U.S. How exciting. How long were you doing that? And do you feel like you're able to transfer any of those skills into the world of wine?
So if sailing gives you the discipline and the effort you have to put into doing things, on the other side, being an aerospace engineer gives you a scientific approach. So really gives you the method to doing things, the research you need behind everything. So, and that we're implementing a lot in the wineries ever since I arrived, and my brother is on the side helping us out. He's an environmental engineer. We're two engineers in the family. So we really have a big approach to everything that's research and giving a method to do things and efficiency in bringing the projects together.
That's great. And it's, a lot of people will say the Altesino has helped shape modern Brunello, but you also feel very traditional as well. How do you balance sort of bringing in modern techniques and maybe even modern palates and tastes while still maintaining the traditions of such a history to state?
Yeah. So the funny thing of Altesino was that since the beginning, Altesino is a winery that's born on the north side of Montalcino. Today, we expanded a little ever since my family took over. And today we have vineyards on both sides, on the north and the south of Montalcino. But it started out in the north part of Montalcino. The north part, for who's been to Montalcino, you might know that there's a lot of difference between the north side and the south side of Montalcino, especially in the weather. The weather on the north is much cooler, has a little bit more rain. The weather in the south is much warmer. So when we're talking about wines from the 80s, 90s, the colder season in the north really made out for Sangioveses that were more light, more precise, more elegant wines. Altesino always followed that pattern, was known to make really elegant style of the Sangiovese. Even when in the 90s it was more popular to make more concentrated, more heavy, kind of heavier type of wines. Instead, Altesino always stood out for being the Brunello that was very elegant. In one way, it stayed very traditional to where the grapes were growing. So they never tried to make anything else that wasn't what the vineyard was giving them.
Mm.
But today it results in a more modern style wine because the palate of today is to have less concentrated, lighter, and more elegant wines. But Altesino has always kept the same style of wine over the years. There were years in which it was anachronistic. Today it's future looking and very modernish. But at the time it was seen like the black swan.
We have a lineup, three of your wines
Yeah.
that we're going to talk about because, it's fun to talk about wine, but tasting is where it's at as far as I'm concerned. So the first one that you sent is the 2024 Rosso di Montalcino. So not a true Brunello, but it's something that I often will suggest to people who absolutely love Brunellos, but maybe that's a little expensive for just an everyday drinking wine. In the Rossos, you're getting the same producer, maybe even some of the same vineyards, but a little less expensive. And sometimes people call these baby Brunellos. I'm
Yeah,
sure you've heard that term before. But
many times.
how would you describe a Rosso di Montalcino to someone if they've never had one before?
Well, for us, Rosso in Montalcino has always been a very important wine. A lot of people thought it was born to be the wine you would make when the grapes weren't good enough to make a Brunello, and then people would think that the Rosso was less quality. Today, no, there is a lot of research and a lot of concentration put, especially on the Rosso in Montalcino, because it's not true that's the wine that you make when you're not good enough to make a Brunello. The Rosso in Montalcino wants to be the young expression of what the Sangiovese can then become. So
Mm,
I'd love for people to drink a bottle of Brunello every day, but Brunello is a wine that ages 5 years. So by definition, it's much more complex wine. It's much more structured wine. It's a wine that you can't drink with comparing it with every type of food, while the Rosso is much more versatile. The Rosso has those same characteristics that will come out in a Brunello, being the red fruits that come out from the Sangiovese grape, because it's a wine that's made in the same way, 100% Sangiovese. We age it in the same exact barrels, so big Slavonian oak barrels, so very easy wood. It's not a wood that comes and influences the wine a lot. It's just a simple container for the grapes because we love the Sangiovese grape this much for its characteristics that we really want them to come out in all our wines. So the Rosso is that wine that brings out the young and the fresh characteristics that the Sangiovese grape can give you. So with less structure, less complexity, but at the same time, you have those red fruits coming at you. You have that high
yes.
acidity level and freshness coming
Hmm.
out. It's a wine that you can pair with so many different types of food. Sometimes I love pairing it also with fish. So it's really a wine for every day. It's a much more affordable wine, obviously. It only has 1 year of aging compared to the 5 years that you get with the Brunello. So I think it's a wine that stands on its own. And in
Yes.
Altesino, we believe so much in the Rosso in Montalcino that this year we just came out like 1 month ago with a single vineyard also of the Rosso in Montalcino. So we'll be making Montosoli in the Brunello version and in the Rosso version.
Oh, that's exciting.
So yeah,
Yeah.
now that's the new thing, the next best thing that Altesino came out, especially because we believe so much in this type of wine. And it's the wine that for who wants to start drinking Sangiovese grape. I mean, for us, Sangiovese is like a religion. You have it on your
Yeah.
dollar notes in God we trust. We have it everywhere on the walls in Sangiovese we trust. So for us, Sangiovese is everything. It's the most popular grape we have here in Tuscany. It's the grape we know the most, but all over the world, it's not as common and as recognized as it is for us here in Tuscany. So it's not easy. I mean, everybody knows and can understand a Cab and a Merlot, but the Sangiovese is a grape that you have to get accustomed to. And I think
Hmm.
the Rosso e Montalcino is the best way to get close to that grape and start understanding the potential and really the fantastic characteristics that the grapes can have in an easy drinking way.
Yeah, and I love it. You said it perfectly. The red fruit, it's fresh. It's got that great balance of acidity, very, very soft on the tannin front. So this is something you could have with a pizza. You could have with a grilled fish.
Absolutely.
I love that idea. Is there a quintessential Tuscan dish that you think of when you think of this wine?
With the rosso. Well, I love
Yes.
having it with the peachy. So peachy are the spaghetti we make here between Siena and Montalcino. And there's peachy all'aglione is the typical dish.
Hmm.
It's a kind of onion that grows here only in Tuscany. It's red sauce. So it's tomato sauce and peachy. And I think that's great with
It's delicious.
pair it with a local dish or anything that's game and that's meat is great. But sometimes I like it. We also have on the coastline a lot of very flavorful fishes because the Med is not an ocean, so the fish are much more flavorful than the ocean fish. So we have some local fishes here that pair fantastic with the wine as well.
That's great. And so it sounds like for you, the Rosso di Montalcino is not an afterthought, like, oh, we have these leftover grapes. Now we make a Rosso. This is intentional. It's
Yes.
more about the style and the aging and what you want to express in this wine than
Absolutely.
being a baby Barolo. It's its own person.
It's its own person, and it's probably the starting point to deal with the Sangiovese. Then from there, growing on with the aging in the barrels and with the years of aging, then you grow into the Brunello. But you need to get your starting point in the right way to be able then
Love
to
that.
make a great Brunello.
Well, you gave me the perfect segue. Speaking of the Brunello, I do here have the 2021 Brunello di Montalcino. So now we're stepping up and tell us a little bit about what are the requirements to go from a Rosso to a Brunello. I know it has to do with aging and what we're trying to express in this wine, which is our second in the lineup. And we are fully in Brunello territory now. So tell us a little bit about what it takes to be a Brunello just in general.
Absolutely. So Brunello is as well, like just like the Rosso Montalcino, it has to be by law 100% Sangiovese. So it's a very territorial type of wine because not having any other varietals inside, it's a wine that by itself expresses where it grows. And it has to age at least 5 years before we can release it on the market. So it has to be 5 years from the harvest. And it needs at least 24 months in wood. So
Okay.
these are the specifications in the laws in which these are the criteria you need to make a Brunello. Everything
Mhm.
less than that cannot be called Brunello. So you see it, we have those slips on the neck of the bottles. Those are the DOCG slips, and those mean that it follows the disciplinary and it's being tested, it passed the controls, and it's officially a Brunello in Montalcino. So you need
Nice.
these basic requirements. On our side, the Brunello you're tasting now, which is our vintage year Brunello, what we want from this Brunello and why Altesino has grown a little since my family came in is because Montalcino is a small growing area compared to many other wine growing areas around the world. It's very small, but it has great quality concentrated in a small place, but at the same time has so many differences from side to side. First of all, the climate. There are 5 degrees Celsius difference between the north side and the south side. That's a huge difference in
Mm.
winemaking for just the temperature. Then also the climate systems, how they work, where you get the rains, where you don't, and also obviously the soil types. There's so many different soil types around Montalcino. What we wanted to do with Altesino is today we own 7 different vineyards, 4 on the north side of Montalcino and 3 on the south side of Montalcino. So we tried to really look for and buy small vineyards in every important growing zones of Montalcino with different soil types, different altitudes, different exposures. And in this
Mm.
wine, we bring them all together to try and give every year a complete expression of what Montalcino territory has to offer. So you have the structure, the power coming from the southern vineyards, the more sandy soils or the more volcanic soils, but at the same time, they're balanced out from the northern soils, the northern temperatures, where you have more rocky soils, more clayish soils, more elegant style wines. So you bring it all together. 2021 was a great vintage year. It was super balanced all throughout the growing season. We had the sun when we needed the sun, we had the heat when we needed the heat, and we got the rain in the specific moments in which you needed the rain. So it was easy to be a good winemaker in 2021. It was a really good vintage for my belief, and having the opportunity to get the different characteristics from the different vineyards and put them together really helps us out every year, no matter what happens during the vintage year, to bring out a very balanced, harmonious, and elegant style of Brunello, which has always been the trademark of Altesino, but this way it helps us make it to do it every year.
Yeah, I mean, the depth of the fruit is, is there when you take this sip. I mean, the nose, you already, you've moved into something a little bit different. There's almost like a balsamic, or there's a savory note there that's really beautiful on the nose, and of course follows through on the palate. And then obviously you have a little more of that tannin on
Absolutely.
the palate, which to me starts, we were talking a little about pairings with the Rosso, but you mentioned game and meat. And so already I'm thinking, oh my gosh, yes.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that's the Brunello really needs a meal. Like Brunello has all these years of aging, really
Hmm.
gives different layers to the wine. And the more you keep it in the glass, and you'll see the more they will come out over time. The Brunello is a wine you can keep in the glass for 30 minutes. And every time you go back tasting it, you will find something different coming out from that glass.
Mm.
And that's what I really love about the Brunello, because it never stops to surprise you and it comes out slowly, one step at a time. I love drinking it as soon as I open it, but I love also leaving it in the glass and drinking it 10, 15, 20 minutes later. And you see the differences you get with the perfumes, the taste, and all the different layers that start coming out way after way. And even with the different food you pair it with, you'll find different
Hmm.
characteristics coming out. So it's a wine that never gets boring. It's never the
No.
same. And it gives you a lot of opportunities to pair it with. Obviously, it prefers everything that has a bit of fat. So all the meats or the gamey meats where you have a lot of savor to them. So it really helps blend in with the wine and soak in the tannins, because obviously having 5 years of aging, you'll have a little bit of tannins there. At the same time, it's one of those wines that we say very gastronomic, because pairing it with food makes the food better and the food makes the wine better. So
Love that.
it's a great celebration wine. It's a great dinner wine. It's a great wine for big meals and happy events.
Yes, and lots of people who maybe collect wine, or not even collect wine, but will buy wine to save for a special occasion or age it, to perfection, if you will. What do you think is the right amount of time to age a Brunello like this?
You would have to have a crystal ball. They ask me all the time when it's best that I open the bottle. So I think first of all, it depends on your personal taste, how you like to drink your wines. If you want the tertiary layers to come out, if you want the freshness to come out, if you want more. So it depends first of all on how you like to drink your wines. Personally, I'm a person that likes to drink them a little younger more than very aged. But then there's some wines, the 2004s we drink now, and I'm so happy I'm drinking them now. Like some of the wines will stand out even years after. 2008 was a vintage year that nobody believed would be a great vintage year. I drink it now. I think it's
Mm.
exceptional. So there's some vintage years that will keep on surprising you even after 20 years. For sure, it's a wine that has in its DNA, it can age at least 20 years. I would go from 20 to 30, I'd be very certain that the wine will still be there. The peat, I don't have a crystal ball. Every vintage year is different. So I would love to be able to tell you, open this bottle the 16th of July of 2036, but I
Well, we
can't.
need to work on that innovation. I mean, if you can be an aerospace engineer, you can certainly invent the wine crystal ball. I have faith.
Exactly. And give you the perfect date for every wine. I
Right.
should start working on it. It would be very interesting, especially for our wines. But the beauty of these wines is that every different year you open them, and every time you open them, you'll see a different aspect of the wine. The wine will never stay always the same. So it's fun if you buy a case to open the 6 bottles, one every year, one every 2 years, one every 3 years, and to see how different those bottles will taste from when you open them first. I mean, the wine is still the same and it will have the same characteristics, but you'll see the evolution it has in the bottle. So they're super
Yes.
interesting, and I love tasting these wines now and over the years.
That's great. And I do think, if you have the ability to buy several, like you mentioned, and taste them at different times, it is such a great experience because
Yeah.
and my husband and I did this with the wine we had at our wedding, and we tasted it every year. And at a certain year, we were like, you know what? Last year, I think was our favorite. Not that we didn't enjoy it, but it was just, you get elegance and it softens, but to some extent, sometimes I'm like you, I like a little bit of the younger, vibrant characteristics too. So it is fun to see it evolve over the years, just like people do, I guess.
Absolutely. It's so beautiful. I mean, it's a lively element that changes with time, and it's
Hmm.
fantastic.
Well, but you mentioned Montesoli. The last Brunello we have here is the Montesoli Brunello, also 2021 vintage. So tell me a little bit about making a single vineyard Brunello. Tell me a little bit about how this differs from your Brunello we just tasted.
So I can talk freely about Montosoli because we arrived at Montosoli had already been started, and it was a very big part of the reason why my mom decided really badly that she wanted Altesino, and to be able to buy Altesino, we had a very strong competitor against us that was willing to buy Altesino until the last moment, and finally we managed to have the best out of them, and because of Montosoli. And Montosoli, as you said before, Altesino is one of those wineries that it's still very traditional in the way we make the wine, in how we deal with the Sangiovese grape, but at the same time brought a lot of modernization to Montalcino. Montosoli was one of those things because in 1970s, at the beginning of the 70s, 1972, they had just planted the vineyard in 69. And the first time they were collecting the grapes, they immediately understood in 1972 that the grapes from this specific vineyard, Montosoli is the name of a hill on the north side of Montalcino, were just different from everything else that was growing around Montalcino. They just turned out a different way. There's something very special about this hill, the location, how the wind runs around it, the exposure it has. It's a tall hill on the north side, and it gets sun exposure all day long. So it's kind of putting together two worlds of Montalcino, the south and the north side of Montalcino, all together in one place. As one side of the hill is only woods, and these woods are very perfumed, so it brings out some perfumes that are totally different from everything else you find in Montalcino. When you said the balsamic note you heard before in Montosoli, it's like exponential.
Yes. And
Everyone
very,
tastes something different, but there's one small characteristic in Montosoli that you can recognize year after year, and it will always come out. And people call it in the most different ways. I have friends that say it's a tomato leaf, friends that say it's tobacco, friends that say it's pepper, who says it's a leather type of, but everyone finds a different thing, but they all find that same characteristic that will come out every vintage year from this vineyard and will make this vineyard be so recognizable. One of the things I get most pride in is every year in Montalcino, there's blind tasting with all the winemakers of Montalcino. They have an internal blind tasting, and they taste all the wines from the vintage year. And Montosoli is one of those wines that most of the winemakers will always recognize. And when your wine
Mm.
gets recognized so easy, it means it has something in its DNA that makes it so much different from everything else. And this was the reason why in 1972, they decided to start making a single vineyard wine in Montalcino when nobody was making a single vineyard wine in Montalcino. It was the first ever single vineyard wine to be made here and to be called with the name of the hill. And today, Montalcino has a lot of single vineyard wines, but Montosoli has been the first one to start this type of current to really point on how territorial and how the Sangiovese will differ in different zones when it grows in different zones, and to
Hmm.
show out the characteristics of this specific part of plot that's on top of a hill. It's galestro soil. So the galestro soil is a poor rocky soil type, but it's great for the Sangiovese grape. It's where the Sangiovese really gets its maximum elegancy. And it's the wine of the heart, you know, it's those wines that if you blind taste me with all the wines we produce, I would come out really bad out of the blind tasting. I'm very ashamed to say this, but the one wine I will always recognize is Montosoli.
Montalcino. I'm going to get that right this time. And I get what you're saying about the nose, about whether it's pepper or it's like like a cigar note. I mean, I get both of those references for sure on the nose. But the other thing that strikes me is that when you take the sip, you're like, oh my gosh, the purity of the fruit it's like the Brunello times 10. And that's the only way I can kind of express it right now. But you can tell, wow, I just moved into this special category.
Absolutely. And you see why we keep this specific plot separate from everything else, because it's one very singular expression that's worthwhile to show the world.
That's wonderful. And so people, of course, all over the world know Brunello di Montalcino and maybe think they know everything about Brunello di Montalcino, but what do you think is one misconception or myth that's out there about Brunellos or Montalcino that, that's just not true, that you would like to set the record straight?
This is a tough question. Now, it's a very tough question. I don't know if I've ever heard something that I say, oh, no, this is so wrong. I have to make the people understand. But I think sometimes people are afraid that Brunello will be too much of a big wine, a wine that's hard to understand. Instead, no, I think the beauty of the Sangiovese grape is the fact that it's a grape that knows how to age so well, and it's a grape that still shows its potential every vintage year. Like, one thing that happens to me, I have a hard time, while I love drinking Brunellos also young, I have a harder time to drink other types of grapes in a younger stage because they really do need a lot of time in the bottle to come out. At the beginning, they're too much of a bomb in your mouth. Well, Brunello is not like that. Brunello,
Hmm.
you can really appreciate at every stage. Even when you say, oh, it's still a baby, it's still too young, but it's still a wine. Just eat a bit more food with it and you'll see that too much, that too young that you feel at that moment, it goes away. So I think maybe if I have to find one small misconception is the fact that maybe people see these 5 years of aging in the bottle and they think, oh, this is a big, big wine. No, I believe Brunello is always interesting.
I love that. Brunello is always interesting.
Yeah, it's not necessarily it's a wine that you need to buy and keep 10 years before you can drink a bottle of wine. Because yes, it's for sure a wine you can buy and keep for 10 years, but it's for sure a wine you can buy and drink now as well.
And I kind of to piggyback on what you said, because I think I agree with that. People think when they think Brunello, it's a big wine. They might think, oh, it's a big wine like Bordeaux or Petit Syrah or some of these wines that you really don't want to drink young or can't drink with lighter fare.
For sure, I have Brunello with dessert. That's one thing I do have. That
Oh,
for
what's
sure.
your favorite?
Anything chocolatey, I think with the Montosoli or the Riserva, they go well.
I often say that if it isn't chocolate, it's not dessert. So we
Exactly.
will be fast friends. All right. This has been amazing, Alessandro. Thank you so much for sharing the story of Altesino and these three amazing wines with us.
Thank
If
you.
folks want to learn more about the winery or even maybe come visit you when they're in Tuscany, what's the best place for them to go?
So we have our website, www.altesino.it. So it's very easy. And we're open all year long, 7 days a week. And we love to have people at the vineyard and at the winery. I think it's the best thing. My mom started this business for really true passion. So her life is all about the Sangiovese. I always say the Sangiovese is the only boyfriend she ever had, really. So yeah, and we love to share our story with people. I think the beauty of wine is it's something that it's best when it's shared and puts people together. And I think and that's what we love. So we love to have people coming over at the winery to visit and to share us.
Great. Well, I'm coming in October, so I hope I get to meet you. And now that I hear about your mom, I must meet her because I love
Absolutely.
all her boyfriends here were delicious. I just want to thank you so much for coming on the Sipping Point
Thank
and
you.
just say cheers.
Cheers.